I now call to order the March 25th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting, the time being 6:31 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
Trustee Moyer. Trustee Teets.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda this evening? No. Any conflicts of interest with the agenda this evening? No. All right, now will be time for public comment. Members of the public wishing to speak will be given 3 minutes and then state your name for the record.
I don't usually come up here, but I heard about what y'all are talking about tonight. I think you're crazy. You are absolutely insane to be thinking that you're gonna raise any rates for anything in this town. Fees, charges, surcharges, any of that crap. You feed this town to death. Water. I mean, property taxes. You know, I'm up $1,000 a month between the insurance hikes that we're dealing with right now because of the hail and property tax stuff in here. Now you're going to go after the power. I mean, you're pricing people out of this town. You know, you're not pricing me out, you're pricing a lot of people out. What's gonna happen when people don't want to sell their house, can't sell their houses here, property values are gonna go down. What do you think's gonna happen there? They're gonna get reassessed. How much are you gonna lose in property tax annually when that happens? How many people are gonna want to move to your town? Like, I see a bunch of people sitting up here without any sort of business sense whatsoever. You're not running this town like a business. You're sitting there for your own vanity. And you're sitting there to make, you puff up your chest and make yourselves look good. You're not thinking about this town as a business. You're gonna fee again? Why don't you doge things up a little bit? Cut some waste and excess, because God knows you have it. And save the people in this town some money. Show the citizens, the residents of this town, that you guys actually care about fiscal responsibility. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
All right, you ready?
No more further public comment. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for items on the consent agenda?
March 11th, 2025 meeting minutes and resolution number 09-2025, considering a contract for installation of an ADA lift at the Municipal Services Building.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Ms. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item D1?
Ordinance number 02-2025, an ordinance granting Black Hills Colorado Gas, Inc., doing business as Black Hills Energy, its lessees, successors, and assigns a natural gas franchise and the authority to granting the right to use the streets, alleys, and other public places within the present or future corporate limits of the town of Wellington, Colorado.
Thank you. And then Ms. Patty Garcia, the town administrator, will present on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Patty Garcia. Thank you, Ms. Hill, for reading that very long and complicated title. Before you tonight is an agenda item regarding the adoption of a franchise agreement with Black Hills Energy. To provide some background, in 1991, the town entered into an agreement with KN Energy, now known as Black Hills Energy. That agreement established an occupation tax of $20,000 per year, modeled after the tax adopted by the city of Fort Collins in 1987. This was pre-Tabor, so did not require to go to a vote of the people. This occupation tax applies to any gas company operating in Wellington. Currently, this tax equates to roughly 40 cents per customer per month. Over the past several years, town staff has been working with Black Hills Energy on implementing a franchise agreement. This agreement before you closely aligns with similar agreements adopted by other municipalities for gas services. It has been reviewed by town staff, legal counsel, and representatives from Black Hills Energy. This agreement aims to support the continued operation and expansion of Wellington's natural gas distribution system. It is proposed for a 20-year term, which matches our existing franchise agreements with Xcel Energy and Poudre Valley REA. Under this agreement, Black Hills Energy would collect and remit a 3% franchise fee from gas sales to the town, which is consistent with our franchise agreements with Xcel and Poudre Valley REA. Key highlights of this agreement include Black Hills' responsibility for maintaining and upgrading its facilities, provisions for handling service disruptions due to natural disasters or regulatory changes, commitments to coordinate with town departments to minimize disruption during infrastructure projects, and ensuring that Black Hills Energy bears the costs of town-initiated utility relocations while private developers are responsible for their own relocation expenses. The anticipated revenue from this franchise agreement is approximately $105,000 annually, which translates to a average customer cost of about $2.04 per month. The timing of this agreement is significant. We've recently learned of a potential request from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office for an additional school resource officer for the 2025-2026 school year. That's not something we have projected to budget, but if this franchise agreement would pass, it would give us some available funding to help support that request if it were to end up coming to fruition. Staff is meeting with LCSO and staff from Poudre School District this week regarding the request, and I'll report out to the Board of Trustees when I learn more about the request. Black Hills Energy has requested 2 readings of this ordinance. The second reading is scheduled for April 8th, 2025, and both readings have been publicly noticed in the Coloradoan. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Tom Henley, Black Hills Senior Public Affairs Program Manager, is also here to address any inquiries you have. When the time comes to vote on, to make a motion, I would recommend either making a motion to approve or deny the ordinance on first reading.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on this, Trustee Wiegand?
What are we going to be gaining from the franchise agreement? I'm just kind of curious on that. I know it's going to cost our people another, I mean, it ain't a ton of money,
Mhm.
but it is still another $2.40 per month.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to get some income from it where we can, like you were saying, possibly cover the resource person.
Mhm.
But I'm just trying to weigh it out and make some sense of it.
Sure. It creates an agreement for us to work with Black Hills Energy. The agreement we have for occupation tax, right, or the occupation tax doesn't lay out all the requirements of Black Hills Energy or the town of Wellington. It's just like a foundational, it's going to cost the town, or it's going to cost Black Hills Energy or whatever, $20,000 per year. So this lines out the agreement for us, talks about, their responsibility to maintain the infrastructure and for their facilities. It talks about their requirement that they will be paying for town relocates that we request. Also states that, as we all know, developers pay their own way. They pay for their relocates. It's a commitment for us to work together. I don't know, Mr. Henley might have more information as far as what that might look like, but it's something that is done to protect ourselves.
Right. Question, can we do this without that increase of the $2.40 to the people?
It's $2.04.
4 cents,
And
I'm sorry.
yes, it's okay. It's okay. If we're talking dollars and cents, then I want to make sure that we're saying it correctly. But we could probably,
And they're already paying 40 cents, is that right?
about
So
4
this is going to
cents.
be
Yeah,
an
40
addition,
cents.
this
It'll,
will be an additional $2.04 a month.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm. So we could probably do it for less. This is typical and what's standard across municipalities. I did look to see what others are charging as far as their franchise fees with Black Hills Energy, along with other franchise agreements, as far as Poudre Valley REA and Xcel Energy, and 3% is pretty much the standard. You bet.
Trustee Teets?
Well, I was all in favor of this, and then a conversation around my dinner table ended in my husband appearing in public comment tonight. We disagree on a little bit. I was super excited to find out the $2.04 was looking to be applied towards the additional resource officer for our schools. We know right now the bullying situation in schools has been front and center for an extended period of time. I'm curious now if there is a generalized idea, would we be able to pull this funding from elsewhere if we did not receive this funding? Would it greatly affect our risk of adding an additional SRO to the schools?
More than likely, we run a very tight budget. But as you know, if the request is made of the Board of Trustees to find funds, then we will do without something else. It may be delaying a project or, not moving forward with, I can't imagine right now, but, maybe we had requested an additional staff member. Maybe there's a vacancy we don't fill. So, we'd have to go without town staff perhaps. So, we always find a way. This provides us an avenue, whether it be an additional SRO, or if the Board of Trustees would believe that it would be better to have the community services officer or something like that. What does that look like? Once I hear back, once I meet with LCSO and Peters School District, I'll know a little bit more about the need and the request, and then I could bring that to the board and you all can make some decisions. I just felt like the timing of this franchise agreement along with the request seemed to support itself.
And you said, so there'll be a second reading of this.
Correct.
So if there were alterations wanted at that second reading, would that be something that would be allowed? Say we hear from public from now until that period.
Generally, when I've had first and second reading in other municipalities, changes can be made like tonight at first reading, and then second reading would be that final reading. But Mr. Sapienza may have.
Following the first reading, one of the requirements is that it must be published. The document be published. So I think if at the next meeting, if you wanted to make changes to it, we'd probably need to then republish the new version. So it would be effectively, the next reading would be the first reading, right? And then we go into a second reading. Right? So
Got it.
If changes were made, it would delay the process. We would have to publish it for 14 days, increase costs on doing this. But,
Okay,
yeah.
got it. That's all the questions I have.
You.
Thank you. Trustee Daly.
I appreciate that you brought this in front of us, as we have asked to pursue franchise agreements with all of our partners. That was a specific request of our board, so I really appreciate you bringing this in front of us. I also appreciate you noting that this is similar to other communities or similar to our other partners that we already have franchise agreements with. Part of the reason why I was so behind franchise agreements is not only potential income for the town, but it was also as a guarantee of infrastructure, to protecting and developing it, and making sure that we have a say and agreement in place with each of our partners. I think that this, from what I'm seeing, accomplishes both of those at a very minimal cost to our residents, me included. I want to just remind that, infrastructure is a lot more than roads and streets. It's the same thing. Roads and bridges is what I meant to say. Roads and bridges and pipes. There's a lot more beyond that, whether it goes to, Comcast and that kind of infrastructure, to our partners, our utility partners and their infrastructure. And as a responsibility of our board is to make sure that we have infrastructure that supports our community and our community of the future. So I appreciate you bringing this in front of us. I look forward to the second reading and hearing more from additional community members. I do hope that anybody who does have a thought or comment for the board to bring that to one of the readings and during that session, so we can all hear the same information. It is a public hearing. No, it is just a reading. Okay, that didn't make sense to me in my head that it was that. So, okay, great. So I really appreciate you bringing this in front of me. I look forward to more residents and community feedback. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Trustee Kim.
Thank you for bringing this. I'm 100% behind it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Garcia, just a couple quick questions for you. I guess I wasn't quite clear from the packet. It said an average cost of, cost increase of $2.04 per, is that total $2.04, or is that plus the 40 cents? So it would be $2.44, or is it actually $1.64 increase? I just wanted to be clear about
I have,
what we're talking about.
I have a note to ask Mr. Sapienza about that because our ordinance talks about, our code talks about the taxable amount of the levy of tax to be $20,000. So I didn't know if we would be, this would be in addition, or if it would be just the $2.04.
The franchise agreement itself waives all other fees like the occupation tax and things
Okay.
like that. So that $20,000 occupation tax that's in our code that is currently being paid, this waives that and puts in place of it
Perfect.
this franchise agreement. So
So it's $2.04, the $2.04.
Okay, correct. So it would be, in fact, a $1.64 increase.
Increase,
Okay,
correct.
I just want to be clear on that,
Thank
so
you.
everybody's on the same page. Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, actually, I'll be meeting with, the mayor and I obviously were very passionate about getting a school resource officer funded way back at the very beginning of our terms. And I am very much in favor of that, especially now that LCSO has approached us asking for that. I would prefer not to make adjustments to the current budget, and I think this is a fabulous way to get there, considering that we've tried to implement that same 3% franchise fee across all of our other franchisee, Comcast, TDS, Excel, PVREA. So I'm very much on board with getting everybody on the same page as far as that 3% franchise fee goes. And I do look forward to getting that school resource officer funded, so thank you.
And Comcast is a 5% franchise fee. The others are just 3%.
Thank you. And then Trustee Moyer is now online, is that correct?
I am.
Have you been on for this?
Yes, I
Okay.
joined at like 5:33.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry, my time.
Okay, it is now open for you, Trustee Moyer.
Thank you. I fully agree with this agreement. I agree with Trustee Mason that we had discussions about this 3+ years ago. And the fact that if there were an emergency at one of the elementary schools and the SRO that we currently have was at the high school and there was a train, there would be absolutely no way for them to respond to said emergency. And to me, looking at $164 per month comes out to $19.68 for the year. And that to me is worth my children being safe. I have children in each school in this town, well, each type of school, and I fully support this if it can help us bring another SRO to the school. As Trustee Teets stated, the bullying is out of control. And to me, this is perfect timing in that, you are provided what you need when you need it. And I support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely support this. We've talked about this. It's multifaceted, right? So we have our infrastructure that is now protected under this in a sense that they will maintain it. We have things we can fall back on, things that are written down. I think it's a solid agreement. Then we get this extra income, which we can put towards an SRO or maybe a community liaison officer, whatever is going to work there. So we're not having to pull it out of the budget, scramble, taking money from other things where money is also needed, right? But the safety of our children is important. I think this is a great way to get that covered. And for a small cost, yeah, $19 a year and some change. I'm 100% behind it. So that's where I'm at. Trustee Wiegand?
I am all for it too, but we do need to acknowledge this is a tax.
Yeah.
A fee is a tax, so
It's
it's the same.
Sure.
Right, but I am for it, especially with the benefit that we're gonna get.
And understand that if it's if it does pass and it is $105,000, that we bring in extra income, that doesn't cover the entire cost of the SRO or anything like that. I
Correct.
mean, I wanted to make sure that that was public, but as I said, we will always find the funds when the needs are there.
It'd take a chunk out of that for sure.
Yes, it would. It would be a huge help.
Any comments from the public on this item?
Want to talk at all?
Oh, sure.
Good evening, trustees. Tom Henley with Black Hills Energy, 1515 Arapahoe Street, Suite 1200, Denver, Colorado. These franchise agreements, just so we're all aware, it's a 3% fee based on how much energy you use. So it can vary based on the person's size of home or business. So that will obviously fluctuate the $1.64 depending on how much they use. But I did want to be clear, the franchise agreement for us is a tremendous benefit just because we now would have a 20-year guarantee on the ability to recover on the assets that we put into the ground. Utility businesses are not cheap. That's why you don't have other natural gas or electric providers here in the area besides of the certificated service territories that the Public Utilities Commission sets up. It's not if you had to compete and put separate gas utilities down either side of the street, everybody would lose money and your rates would be astronomical. So this is just a benefit for the town, us being able to play by and operate by the rules that you say and have to relocate if you have a project that needs to have our lines removed. And also, it also puts forward the rules of the road for the developers. They know that they're going to be paying for the cost of the development that they put in. So that's it. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Trustee Teets.
I do have an additional question now. You had discussed fluctuation. Is 3% the cap?
3% is the amount. It's just, it depends on how much gas they use. So if you use 100 therms versus somebody who uses 150 therms, the 150 is going to pay more because it's 3% of 150. So it's the total revenue
perfect.
that comes in, 3% of that total revenue fee.
Got it.
Okay?
That was my question.
Perfect.
The average.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
All right, no public comment. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 02-2025.
First reading.
Should I read the entire thing, Dan, or can I just say approve the Black Hills Energy franchise agreement as presented?
On first
First
reading.
reading.
First reading.
I second.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item D2?
Resolution number 10-2025 of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, considering a contract for consultant services.
Thank you. And then Megan Smith, the Deputy Director of Public Works, will present on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Megan Smith, Deputy Director of Public Works. You have before you this evening, here tonight to seek approval for a contract for consultant services to perform a utility rate and fee study. I'm also going to be asking for some board direction on the formation of a rate advisory group as part of this study. So a little bit of background. Not that we all need it, but just as a little bit of background. In the last comprehensive rate study that we performed at the Town of Wellington was completed in 2022. And as part of that, the recommendations that came out of that study, it was recommended to review, kind of do a deep dive review of that analysis every 3 to 5 years. I don't know if you'll remember, but we've completed a couple of really large infrastructure projects, water and water reclamation infrastructure projects in the past 12 months, less than that. And with the completion of those projects, it really makes it kind of crucial at this time to reassess that rate and fee analysis. The proposed 2025 study also expands from not just water and wastewater rate and fees, but also to include stormwater, which was not part of our previous review. Now, as part of the consultant process, we did issue an RFP, so a request for proposals in mid-January with a deadline of February 14th, so just under 30 days. We received two submissions, so two proposals from two separate firms. And we had an internal team that reviewed those and evaluated the proposals based on their project understanding, team qualifications, experience, and cost. And Raftellus was identified as the most qualified firm with a final rating of 78% for an overall rating. I will note that there were two optional tasks that were proposed as part of the Raftellus rate study proposal. Staff is not recommending pursuing either of those optional tasks at this time for a couple of reasons. One was a capital project delivery best practices. At this point, it's really out of scope of the services we were looking. Currently, staff performs all of our capital project planning in-house. The second was some additional customer outreach. And I do want to highlight that, of course, additional outreach is absolutely beneficial, but it does push the project budget beyond what was approved and appropriated for this project. And it already in that, in both the request for proposals and in Raftellis's proposal, there's a detailed approach to have a rate advisory group that would be made up of residents, business owners, board appointed perhaps, to review and be part of that stakeholder engagement process. Really make sure that we're getting that transparency and bringing in input from the community. We are, as we mentioned, looking for some board input this evening. We don't need to make a decision tonight. It's not contingent upon contract approval to have made a decision exactly how or who would make up that rate advisory group, but we are going to look for, I am looking for some feedback from the board on that. As a reminder, in 2022, was that 20? Yeah, I guess it was, it all happened in 2022. That was a board-appointed advisory group. And there was sort of consideration taken into account for ensuring a kind of a broad spectrum of representation on that advisory group, strictly residential, commercial and business owners. There were also some duly appointed, like a representation from other existing town boards. I could think perhaps a finance committee member, for example, could be a thoughtful idea. There are some ideas in the packet material around the considerations that would need to be in place. We're proposing to have 4 advisory group meetings. There's a lot of information. It would really be important for folks to be able to try and attend all 4 of those. And then, of course, being open to learn some new things is always important as well. So really, at this point, I would like to solicit some of your feedback on that direction or open that for discussion across, for the board, if that's the appropriate timing. They're not, okay. And I will stand for any questions related to the contract, the proposal that's in the packet or anything else.
Perfect, thank you. For the advisory group, where are you guys sitting there? Do you want to do board appointed? You guys, what are your thoughts there, trustee or Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I very much would like to see us contact the same rate advisory group folks that we had prior. I think those folks are knowledgeable in the subject. I think it's going to take a long time for us to get up to speed new folks. Not to say that I'm opposed to having new folks, and I would love to have new folks on there if we reach out to rate advisory group members from the past and they are not willing to participate, then obviously we're going to have to go out and get some new members. But I do want to see us reach out to those folks. I think last time that was a very productive group, and most of them attended all of the meetings, so I was very impressed with their work. So I would like that would be my first ask.
That's a good idea. Trustee Teets, you look, yes.
I'm on board with Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion. The only thing I can think of is I know, so say the person that I appointed, I know that they're not in this area anymore.
Oh.
So I would love to offer feedback on someone to adjust into that place, but reaching out to that initial group of people, I think would be a fantastic idea. There was a lot covered. I read through the packets, and having someone experience that has that base knowledge to go off of already is really going to speed up time and education basis, I feel, for you guys when it comes to having to re-explain everything over again.
I agree. I think, if we got the knowledge there, we ought to take advantage of it. But I think we should still be open to, if somebody else from the populace here would like to reach out to us and get on it, we definitely should consider them too. So I think, you know, how many people were on the board prior? What was that total? 5?
I apologize that I can't answer that question offhand, and
think it was 7.
I knew when I walked up here,
Yeah, it
because I feel
seemed
like
like
it
it was
was
7.
because there was one for every
Yeah,
board member.
so I think there was 7,
I think
Yeah.
it dwindled down.
It
when
might
maybe 1
have.
or 2 stopped attending.
but I think we ought to probably put an ask out there to the populace and see if anybody would be interested in it too.
Yeah.
And keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, trustee Moore.
So I was on that roundtable the last time, and I totally agree that the learning curves for someone coming in without any knowledge of the history would be huge. So I fully agree with reaching out to the roundtable from last time. I don't know that I agree with putting a ask out there. I think that we probably know people who have been engaged and who have been following that. And there were some members in the first roundtable that were not present in the second that might be worth reaching out to as well.
Good input. Trustee Daly?
I like the idea of board appointed, so every person can choose from a group or existing or previous or new members. I think that's a good idea. I don't necessarily, I see the benefits of picking people who have participated in this kind of process before, but I also understand that we're trying to do potentially utility building different than before as well. So I don't know if that knowledge and decisions of how we are doing and the how we're doing billing is actually going to be detrimental or beneficial to understanding new ways of doing it in the future. I think that people will probably totally be capable of grasping that, but I'm sure other people might be want to be involved or not. I don't know, but that's the nice thing about having everyone appoint someone. They could pick within a pool of people that they know have served in that position before if they're willing and able. There's obviously not all those people around anymore, so there already is enough people. We need to have 7 people. 7 would be ideal. No more, no less. To be completely honest, 7 is a perfect number. So I'm happy to go either way. I'm more than anything, I just want to acknowledge that how important it is to make sure that we have a resident. And what was missing in the last one was a commercial interest in the bill rate. And so that's a primary thing that I would probably reach out is to a business that was not maybe involved in no commercial, like primary as a commercial interest in rates within the previous groups. There's a lot of business-minded people, but maybe a business owner, that kind of thing. But I think that it really speaks volumes to this board that every single time that we want to know how to bill our utility, our residents and our businesses, that we always seek guidance from those groups and make sure that they have all the information, data, studies, all the questions that they might have answered, all that information on them in order to make those suggestions to us. And then we take those suggestions seriously. So I really want to commend that. And I know a lot of thought goes into who should represent the community in that sense. So I definitely want to make sure it's not our board. Nobody on our board should serve in this group. Just, others that are then advising us. So that was the only other thing I want to say. No board members, please.
Thank you. Trustee King?
I wasn't here for the 2022, but it sounds like a great idea. I do like the idea of the board appointing members to this. Your rate advisory group recommendations of residential customers, business customers, and representatives from other town boards. I don't think representatives from other town boards should be on the group myself, but that's my only comment.
Thank you. I could go either way.
So one thing I think I could do is if I'm sort of looking over at Patty for a head nod, is I could pull together the list of the 2022 rate study advisory group members as well as the wastewater rate roundtable advisory group members and provide that list of folks to the board as a reminder of who those were. And then, of course, some folks like Trustee Moyer are already out of the running, obviously. Folks have left, and there may be folks that you reach out to that aren't interested this time. But if I were to provide that to you all, and then you all had an opportunity as the board to select from that group of people, you know, to look at that group of people or take influence or receive feedback from other community members, and maybe there's somebody else you're looking to appoint, or perhaps I agree we didn't have, last time, one thing we really were missing was a local business owner, especially maybe one that's truly a higher water user. So maybe one of our restaurants or bars, or one of the industries. We did not, we were missing that. Would that be a good first step?
Yeah.
Send that out. And then, and like I said, we're not on a high priority timeline, but I do have an initial like project kickoff meeting already on the schedule in early April. So we're not delaying, but we have a little bit of time. Yes, sir.
The only concern I have is as most of you know, I'm going to be out from April 6th to the April 23rd, which means I will not be at any board meetings or work sessions in the month of April. So if this is something we're going to be doing, do you want to wait till I get back for me to make my appointment, or should I reach out now and maybe work with Pat Garcia about?
I think we can gather the names pretty quickly and
Yeah.
get those out
Okay.
before the end of the week.
Oh,
And-
easily. Yeah. for
And
sure.
that way we can move this along pretty quickly. And we can, whether that's phone calls or emails or whatever, directly to Megan and myself, as opposed to emails back to everybody. You know, we can start collecting some of those names if there's people you want that you've chosen. And if somebody, say you would ask for Joe Smith and we receive that tomorrow, and then Trustee Wiegand says, I want Joe Smith, we'll just say, Joe Smith has been taken. You'll have to pick someone else.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
okay, so
Joe
we can,
Smith's taken.
yeah, so we can work this out.
Thank you.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last time it was an email that went out to us. We sent in who we picked,
Mhm.
and we didn't have to do it in a meeting or anything like that. It just, okay. And I think we did that did we do that for both of them?
Probably.
I think we did.
so.
So I don't think you have to be present we didn't do that the last time.
As long as you've got internet over there.
Understandable. You're fine.
I'm not going to try to zoom in.
Nope,
Mhm.
we got you. We got you covered.
Perfect.
Mayor, if I may, Raftalis is an amazing partner. I've enjoyed every interaction I've ever had with them. They are masters of their business and profession, and really great with how they acknowledge public feedback and our desires and motivations and goals. I think I'm glad to see they want to work with us again, and they replied to our RFQ, but above all, I think they're a fantastic decision for moving forward in this. And if anybody needs background information, they have all the background information. So none of that will have to take that much time or anything. So I'm really excited that they want to be our partners again.
And we have we have our two core team members from the previous study, and then some expanded team members of course, as this scope's a little bit larger with doing
Right.
stormwater. So, yeah.
And I'm very glad that we're expanding it to all of our utilities too. I think we're doing better every time, and I love it.
So on that, were there any questions other questions at all related to the proposal or the proposed contract? Okay.
I did. So one of my main questions was the two items that you had omitted, the capital improvements projections and the community engagement, the additional stakeholder engagement. I understand as far as like overshooting the budget and items like that, but could you explain a little more to me what that stakeholder engagement for the community members would look like? And then it can better guide where my recommendation would be about finding out the total cost of that and maybe including
Bless you.
that for all the residents' feedback.
So I'll be honest, I don't have all of that memorized at my fingertips as pretty early on in the review process. It was opted if we were going to go this route, considering it pushed us a fair bit over budget. I'm trying to get down to the fee proposal page towards the end of that contract packet, where you can see that optional, just trying to find that.
See, and I must have missed it because I was looking for the
Yeah.
estimated cost.
Yeah, this was an updated their numbers didn't add up in the first one that they sent me, so this was an updated page that had been set later. And I'm wondering if I missed that. But it was in the realm of, I was glancing back at Bob to see if he was listening.
It's on, in the packet on page 68 at the bottom.
68?
Yeah, under fee proposal, there's a box at the bottom of the fee proposal.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's kind of separated out there.
Optional task, customer outreach, $25,000, 24,560. So it was a large enough number that, there wasn't a lot of ways to review the required tasks to find places where we could shave
Got
any
it.
parts of the required tasks to come up with that much additional.
Got it. That was my question.
Okay.
I just wanted to know if it was like $2,500 or if we were looking at. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sapienza.
It's a baby grand piano.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay. Do I hear a motion on this item?
They pulled up the motion so I can read it correctly.
Pretty short.
I move to approve resolution number 10-2025, a resolution of the town of Wellington, Colorado, considering a contract for consultant services.
I second.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Daly?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Trustee Teets?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Shosse?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, will you read the title for item D3, please?
Ordinance number 03-2025, an ordinance amending Wellington Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Article 16, Wellington Finance Advisory Board.
Thank you. And Mr. Nick David, the Finance Director / Treasurer, will present on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. As the Mayor said, my name is Nick David, Finance Director and Treasurer for the town, as well as the last Chair of the Wellington Finance Committee Advisory Board. After discussion with the board at a work session in January, tonight we bring proposed changes to Wellington Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Article 16, to update the name, purpose, and functions of the Wellington Finance Advisory Board in an effort to keep communication open and be transparent with residents about the town's financials, while allowing the Wellington Finance Advisory Board, Board of Trustees, and town staff to operate in a more efficient and effective manner. To start, I want to offer a brief background of the currently titled Wellington Finance Committee Advisory Board. The Wellington Finance Committee Advisory Board was established in 2022 with the intent of increasing transparency to the residents of the town's financial reports and internal controls, and to provide an avenue to gather input and feedback from residents. The first term of the advisory board began June 27th, 2022, and concluded May 20th, 2024. Current members were encouraged to reapply for a second term, and recruitment for new applicants began April 18th, 2024. By the June 17th meeting of the advisory board, 3 members had been appointed by the Board of Trustees. Per Wellington Municipal Code, the advisory board shall consist of 7 voting members and 1 non-voting Board of Trustee liaison member. And quorum requires 4 voting members. As quorum has not been established since May 20th, work sessions have been held or scheduled on June 17th, July 15th, August 19th, October 21st, and November 18th of 2024, as well as January 27th and February 24th of this year. Wellington Municipal Code also states that members of the advisory board are appointed to serve a 2-year term. Recruitment for additional members since May 20th has included posts on social media in April, May, July, and August of 2024, and information available at the Budget Bonanza in October. No additional applicants to serve on the advisory board have been received. It's clear that the current operations of the advisory board need to be updated. The board of trustees, and staff still also want to be transparent with residents about the town's financials, and we believe there is value in keeping the Wellington Finance Advisory Board in the municipal code. With feedback from the board and my experience as experience on the advisory board and now as staff, we offer the following updates. So in alignment with other entities, changing the name to the Wellington Finance Advisory Board, updating the purpose to include the advisory board in reviews of budget, financial reports, and internal controls, and to incorporate an advisory capacity to town staff. Update member eligibility to include a requirement to be residents of the town and remove the restriction on members serving on other town boards or commissions. Update membership and terms to simplify board composition by allowing any number of members, up to 7, serving staggered terms of 4 years, which is also in alignment with other town entities. And we would also name the town treasurer as a member and chair of the advisory board. And we would update the meeting operations so that the town treasurer can call the meetings and create the agenda. It would still require bylaws and records of business and remove the requirement to establish a quorum to do business so that members present at the meetings can meet effectively. Recently, the town has completed the audits of the 2021 financial statements in 2024 and the 2022 financial statements in 2025, both receiving a clean opinion from the auditors. A new finance director was appointed town treasurer by the board in May of last year, and the town's budget has been recognized by the Government Finance Officers Association with the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award in 2024 and 2025. While there is still work to be done with the 2023 and 2024 audits, reviewing financial policies, and of course, the upcoming 2026 budget process, Wellington is making progress. Updating the operations of the advisory board will help increase efficiency while still maintaining the significance of the advisory board within the municipal code. I'd be happy to stand for any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Moore?
No questions. I find it discouraging that we haven't had a quorum in quite some time, almost a year. I'm happy to look at adjusting this so that it makes more sense for what we're trying to accomplish now. Yeah, I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Trustee Teets?
I'm very grateful for the edits. I know this was something that I was pretty passionate about in our work session. I think it's fantastic that there were opportunities to still engage our residents. And I know we've had 3 when we first started, we had a full board and they were interested and active. I'm curious to see where this goes, and I have a really good feeling setting it up this way might actually encourage even members of other boards to get involved in this and be able to provide feedback from different angles that our regular residents might not see as well. So I think it's awesome. I like the fact that you removed the requirement for the quorum because since it is just advisory, it's awesome to just receive feedback. It gives additional times where residents can show up at a meeting because they're public. So if they want to know, all they have to do is go and ask. I think that's the reason I loved this, is because I've been able to sit in on some of the meetings, and it's educational, even sitting in this chair, getting to see and how this board interacted and discussed the finances and items like that. So I'm very excited and grateful that there was something done to keep this, to help keep our residents engaged.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegand?
I appreciate you approaching this the way you did. I mean, you're going to make this thing functional, practical, and again, the quorum part, getting rid of that. The adjustments that you made, I think, have been great. So appreciate what you've done, and I know you know the importance of it. So I love the insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cannon?
Thank you, Mr. Redaven. 2020, we had some turnover, and we had trouble filling that finance director position. And because of that, we missed audits. We missed a series of audits that put us behind, and it created a lot of distrust by our community on the town staff, and its elected officials for being able to run the finances of this town. And it's unfortunate that we went through that turmoil in the leadership position in our finance director. But one thing that I am very proud of is your role here, Nick, and what you've been able to bring to the town. You bring an element of transparency, of professionalism, in just about every action that you do. I've been sitting on that finance advisory committee for the past year, and it's disappointing when then you can't have a meeting. I think that we needed the finance committee during that time period, because there was so much distrust and so much turmoil and uncertainty with everything that's going on. But I look at what we've done since you've been here. First of all, we've the past 2 years, we've gotten the highest rating that the Government Finance Officers Association can award to a municipality for its budget. And that speaks volumes to your leadership. It also speaks volumes to Patty's leadership and Kelly Hodelin's leadership in making this a reality. And I think it's a tremendous accomplishment. I think our Finance Committee in previous years helped bridge the gap that we were seeing within the town finances, what was occurring, and making sure that there was some level of accountability, since a lot of the public didn't feel that accountability. I've been saying for the past 8 months, we don't need a finance committee. And I still feel that way. We don't need a finance committee. The information presented in the past 12 months has been the same information you're presenting to us and the Board of Trustees, that you provide, and that hopefully you're putting that on the website so we have information out there. So there's a lot of transparency all built in. I was under the impression that we were probably going to be terminating that committee, and not amending it to see something else. So I'm a little unsure about how I'm going to vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daly?
I appreciate the amendments and the proposed amendments, just to make sure that it remains valid and it's serving our town in the best way. I think of all people, you as a member and chair of the Finance Committee, and now in your current position as the board-appointed treasurer of our board, are the perfect person to make those suggestions. And everything you've suggested thus far makes complete sense. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Looking forward to hearing if there's any public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Redhaven, I just want to say I share some of the very same sentiments that Trustee Cannon mentioned, which is that I just want to say that you and your department and Ms. Garcia and Ms. Hodeling have done an excellent job over the last year here getting all this stuff together. I've been very impressed. So I do want to say as much as I can understand your comments, sir, I do believe that this is an excellent compromise. I think this allows, just as Trustee Teets mentioned, this allows residents to still be able to participate in this and have some feedback if they'd like to. And certainly I think all of us here are interested in transparency as the town's financials go. So I guess I would say I would support this. The only thing I would ask is, obviously it's been, we have had a lot of difficulty in soliciting members over the last year. And I guess I would just, the only thing I would ask about the current, what's been proposed is, obviously we're looking to make these 4-year terms. I guess I would ask the board is, do we want to increase the term? I would almost be inclined to say we should keep them at 2-year terms, just because of the difficulty that we've had in attracting and retaining members, would be my only point of contention. Otherwise, I like what I see here.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was in the frame of mind that the Finance Committee was needed when we had it. And well, I mean, we still have it, but was very needed when we formed it. served a very vital role for the community. But I think this is a beautiful compromise. I will also double down on your 2 to 4 or 4 to 2 for the terms. When I first saw that, I thought maybe that might be too much of an ask um, for somebody to dedicate 4 years when we're already struggling getting people on that. But yeah, and I trust you and your edits and you know, wanting to keep this around for all those purposes. And so yeah, I think it looks great, and maybe just change it from 4 years to 2 personally.
And you can still stagger it, correct?
Yeah.
You
Set it
could.
up that way, no problem.
If we staggered 2-year terms, you effectively would be doing recruitment for this on an annual basis. It would take a lot of time. The benefit to staggering a 4-year term is it's every 2 years you're doing a recruitment process.
Okay.
So I think if you're going down to a 2-year term, I would say, I'd maybe recommend not staggering.
Not staggering.
Yeah.
And this, we didn't come to this lightly, because Nick and I, Mr. David and I both sat in the meeting when this was discussed, and we had really thought that the right way to move would be to dissolve the finance committee. And that's, kind of a lot of the impression we had received from the Board of Trustees as well that evening. But we sat and we talked about what those needs are as a staff member, and how we really appreciate the insight of our residents, and how can we still use that support, because the members of the finance committee that are there now want to help. They want to be engaged, and we are getting ready to look at our purchasing policy, all of our financial policies, and to have resident input into something like that before it comes to you was incredibly beneficial for both of us. So we met with Mr. Sapienza and told him, this is what we would like. How do we make this happen? And what is before you tonight is that document that helps give us as staff the need, or fills the need of having resident input on something that's so important to the town, such as our financial policies, and still, be able to we've drilled it down so we don't have to meet every month. It's as needed, and, just is available when we have items for them to review and discuss.
Perfect. Thank you. How's the board feel about 2 years not staggered versus 4 staggered?
If you don't mind, I agree with Mr. Sapienza that a 2-year unstaggered means you have complete turnover, and the learning curve goes like this down to here and then back up. If you stagger those terms, at least you've got, it's like why we stagger our terms here.
Yeah,
So that people aren't learning the business.
Okay,
and,
so the logistics of it, 4-year staggered is
the 4-year staggered
fair.
seems fair. And it's a big commitment if, for somebody wanting to do that. What's the planning commission? What's that term? That's a 4-year too? Okay.
I'm fine what works best, and being that we have a trustee liaison that is recommending the difficulty of doing a 2-year, I feel that if it is getting rid of a learning curve, I would support the 4-year as well. I mean, the members always have an option to leave after 2 years and choose not to finish the 4 if they choose not to. So I would definitely say that, is there any kind of option that you can provide when you're signing up for, are you interested in a 2-year term or a 4-year term? Is there anything along those lines that you could see that would work that way?
I would avoid it.
Okay.
I would too.
Yeah.
Mainly because we're gonna write a code, write an ordinance that says, we're creating this entity, and this is the terms for it. That going into it, as opposed to just, I get an option. Well, I don't want to do 4 years. I want to do 2 years. Now you're back to 2-year complete turnover.
I have a thought on that.
Yeah, please.
So when I joined the planning commission, there were several seats that we were filling, and some had they all had different term lengths. We could reset and set different term lengths for, maybe to have a 4-year, to have a 3-year, to have a 2-year, and then take into consideration people's time commitment preferences and assign them, accordingly. I think there is something to that historical knowledge, of course. I will say I was in favor of just disbanding completely. However, I do realize that our resident feedback is hugely important. And if there are people that are interested in participating, I would love to see this amendment go through. However, if we don't see the engagement that we are hoping for, I would like for us to be able to bring this back and reevaluate.
If I can, one more thing. I appreciate your comments, Trustee Moyer. I think when our code is for a 4-year term, even in the planning commission, sometimes people have to leave that commission and you're going to serve their unexpired term, which may be 2 years, which may be 1 year, which may be 3 years. But you're always filling that position that's in a 4-year term. So it's, varying. There is no variation in the term limit on that. You just fill in a vacancy for the remainder of that term, just like a trustee would.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
I realize that. I just thought we could be creative and think outside the box,
Oh.
perhaps.
One more question, if I might. You say up to 7 members. So if our current complement of 3 show up, you would be the chair of that instead of an elected person who's the chair. You would be the chair of that.
Correct.
And you'd still have a trustee there that's a liaison. Is it a non-voting liaison?
Non-voting liaison.
Non-voting liaison. So even 3 members without the need for a quorum can conduct business. What if one person is there? Can they conduct business? Because now, one person can make a lot of impact if there's not a lot of discussion back and forth. 3 people can make a lot of impact if there's not a lot of discussion back. I'd like to make the 7.
I would say there's some obstacles to that.
Yes, there
One would
is.
be the entity has to have bylaws. So in creating those bylaws, even though there's not a code requirement for quorum, and right now the problem with the code requirement of quorum is it says must be 4 people, right? So we don't even have 4 people on the board, so that's impossible. The bylaws could say that in order to hold a meeting, you must have a majority of the appointed members present. That could be one option. The other thing would be, because there's a liaison and there's a chair who's the staff member, and the fact that this is an advisory board, if that entity came back, or that one person showed up and they made a decision, this board of trustees would kind of weigh that advice accordingly, right? You would look at that and say, yes, this is coming from the advisory board, but it was really just one person there, so we'll give that the weight that it deserves. So because they have no formal authority to take action, I think that the risk of that is lessened. But there's some other things that could be done procedurally within it to avoid that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? No public comment? Do I hear a motion on this item?
I make a motion to move to adopt ordinance number 03-2025, and ordinance amending Wellington's Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Section 16, Wellington Finance Advisory Board.
Article 16. You said section.
Does say Section 16 here.
Oh.
On mine.
It does?
Yes.
Okay. I think it'll work.
I second.
Clerk, make a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. On to town reports. Mr. Dan Sapienza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the April 18th, I believe, the work session that's in April, whichever that is, one of the items that's on the agenda then is bylaws. And Trustee Cannon is an item you'd asked about at the last meeting. Want to let the board know, expect an email from me tomorrow regarding bylaws. And since I know you'll be absent for that meeting, Trustee Cannon, all the feedback we can get before then as possible would be great. But that'll be coming up in April, so I look forward to having that discussion. And another item, watering restrictions. I wanted to kind of update the board on a couple items. We think this might be coming back in the future. Wanted to get some feedback from the board and also provide some kind of context around watering restrictions. The town of Wellington has put in place watering restrictions over the years. I think the first time it was done was back in about 2002, 2003. For a number of years there around then, the town put in place voluntary and mandatory watering restrictions. There were a number of years where no restrictions at all were put in place. And then for the last few years, mandatory watering restrictions have been in place. This has been done over the last few years, largely because of the expansion of the water plant. Simply, the town couldn't create enough water, couldn't process enough water to water people's lawns. So there were mandatory watering restrictions. During the debate over the last few years of mandatory watering restrictions, voluntary watering restrictions had been discussed as well. I'm not sure it's really a restriction if it's voluntary, but it's been discussed. A question that always comes up around watering restrictions that I wanted to address is related to HOAs. Always, we have this discussion, so I thought before watering restrictions are even discussed, I just wanted to get it out there and give the board a little 101 on state law related to HOA's ability to levy fines related to watering restrictions. It's in Colorado Revised Statutes 38, 33.3, 302, 1K2. Send me an email. I'm happy to send you that citation and give you the code so you don't have to write it down if you don't want. HOAs can fine people for not having adequate irrigation on their lawns, right? If their lawns are brown, the HOAs can fine them if that's in their covenants. What this section says is they cannot fine somebody if the local entity that governs water, whether it's a water district or in this case, the town, has in place restrictions or guidelines about how often somebody can water. They cannot fine somebody if the property owner is watering in accordance with those restrictions. So, for example, in 2024, the requirement was that the mandatory restriction here in the town was that a property owner could not, yes?
I heard you say restrictions or guidelines.
We'll get there here in a second.
Thank
Hold on. So in 2024, there were mandatory restrictions in place, and that required it said that property owners cannot water more than twice a week. Again, that was largely due to our water plant. And so in that case, an HOA could not fine somebody if their grass was brown, as long as the property owner was watering in compliance with those restrictions. So if the property owner was watering twice a week, which was allowed by the town, and yet still their grass was brown, the HOA could not issue a fine. Now, it is up to the property owner to prove that. Now, the HOA could come to them and say, your grass is brown, what's going on? And they'd say, well, look at my schedule. I'm watering every night or 2 nights a week on my allowed days. It's just not enough. So as long as they're in compliance with that. So right now, for the town, for 2025, the town does not have in place watering restrictions. We do them on an annual basis by resolution. So we do not have mandatory watering restrictions in place at this moment. And in the past, it's been done in April, which is why we're talking now. This year, and Megan will have more information on this when she actually talks about the watering situation in April. I'm just talking about the law here, not the actual water situation. But in 2025, it's not expected that we'll need mandatory watering restrictions. As I said, in 2022 through 24, the main issue was the water plant itself, the ability of the town to process the water. That's why we had those mandatory restrictions in place. That's no longer an issue in 2025. So mandatory restrictions are probably not necessary. However, Mr. Mayor, as you pointed out, the ordinance, or excuse me, the statute, this is state law, says that if a local government has watering restrictions or guidelines, in place. And I think a guideline could be compared to a voluntary restriction, perhaps. I like the word guideline a little better, just because like I said, I'm not sure a voluntary restriction is really a thing. So what I'd like to do is, and I think the utility department, or Public Works is in support of this. We'd like to bring forward a set of guidelines for the town of Wellington to restrict watering, to encourage residents to restrict their watering in the year 2025. Again, it wouldn't be mandatory, but it would be in line with the 2018 water efficiency plan that the town's adopted. It's certainly supported by, regional, statewide, and local drought conditions and arid conditions. I mean, there's reasons to conserve water. If nothing else, for the residents, it's a good idea to conserve water just to save on their water bills. But we could put in place guidelines, and as long as those guidelines are in place, it would fit within that statute. So it would help residents whose HOAs might be coming at them. So this is something we'll be bringing forward in April. Is the board generally amenable to that discussion taking place? And at that time, there will certainly be a lot more information about the water situation and everything else. But like I said, I wanted to really make clear what that statute says. It's something a lot of people talk about, but it's something a lot of people talk about incorrectly. And so I just want to be real clear what it is saying. Do you have any questions for me on this right now, or otherwise we can have a much more in-depth discussion of it in April?
Member Tim.
Just real quick comment. Bingo, Mr. Sapienza. I think you've nailed it on this one. Guidelines is something I can vote for. Restrictions this year being, that we've got the plants obviously online. Restrictions would not be something I'd be interested in voting for, but I can do guidelines.
Thank you, sir. Town Administrator, Ms. Garcia.
No report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the staff reports that were in the packet? No. Okay. Any board reports? Trustee Teets.
I do have one. So something that I'm pretty excited to share is the Spring into Wellington Community Showcase. So this is a home show with a twist. Luckily, the Wellington Manor is hosting a community showcase highlighting all businesses that provide any services or sales in the Wellington area. So this could include construction companies, auto service detail companies, insurance, home-based businesses, medical and health, gyms, plumbers, all of it. So they are taking time out to open up their entire property to host this. It's my understanding they're going to have live music and there's going to be a bar there. So I'm super excited to see this, and I'm like this come to fruition that actually is supporting every single business in Wellington. So I am extremely grateful to the Manor for hosting this. It'll be Saturday, May 10th. It's free for all people to attend. So there is a small vendor fee, but other than that, it's just going to be a huge community gathering, and people can see just how much Wellington actually has to offer this community that you typically won't see because a lot of them are still home-based businesses. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Daly.
I have many updates. I will try to be brief. Regarding Main Street program, they are doing some amazing and great things. At the last meeting, we met with Slate Communications. If you guys can remember, that's the person or the organization that we're contracted with to work on the Shop Local campaign ideas, as well as the DOLA videos for each of the communities. They were awesome to talk to, and the ideas that they are coming up with is great, including like a catchphrase or slogan to go along with that campaign. There was a lot of really great ideas. The Main Street Main Street got to contribute to those ideas and give some feedback on it. The next one was Main Street Market is in full swing for planning right now. It's going to be on Friday nights this summer. It's going to correspond with a lot of events, including 4th of July and the movies in the park nights, because we have a giant new wonderful screen now, so we can have movies in the park. It's going to be great nights and Fridays all summer long. So I hope everybody will look for that. If you are a vendor and looking to participate, please reach out to the Main Streets program. Main Streets program is also looking for some mural artists. So if that is you or you know someone, please refer them. They are looking to get a couple new pieces of art in downtown or around the Main Street area. Otherwise, they're working towards a lot of major events coming, including Earth Day, spring cleanup, where they clean up on Main Street and all around the surrounding areas. It's super fun time. You get to wear a cool vest. It's a great day. So I really hope that us as a board can come if you're available. It's a really good time. And I actually got to know a lot of people during that cleanup project more by doing that. So it's a great service opportunity. And then Brewfest and wine tasting is coming up on June 7th. Tons of other things going on there, but I'm going to switch over to Prost real quick. Prost sponsored a local Girl Scout and she recently received her Silver Award, which is a big deal. She did a feasibility study and desirability of having public gardens in Wellington and where they would even be located. So if you participate in those surveys that happened, that project was kind of run through Prost as a feedback loop and those kind of things, and she did a really great job. So I wanted to congratulate her on her Silver Award. The Prost is also keeping up to date in Master Plan and Community Center, doing some vision brainstorming. They're very close to proposals, providing guidance, and then the future involvement as stakeholders of that project. So they're very close to that project and have been participating and getting updates on each meeting. So fantastic news there. Also, officially, our Veterans Memorial is now named the Veterans Garden at Wellington Community Park. It is in full swing for planning, fundraising, all of the above. It is a fantastic vision that we're seeing here, and I'm really excited for this to go further. But it is now, instead of Veterans Memorial, can be referred to as the Veterans Garden at Wellington Community Park. In addition to that, next week I will be attending Downtown Colorado Inc. is doing a conference, luckily in Greeley. So that's really nice for us. And it is called found it. I had it. I have so many tabs open with my notes. It's 2025 In the Game Vibrant Downtown event. Parts of the days will be focused on problem solving for communities, and the second half will feature cutting edge ideas around what's coming next for downtowns in our state. I'll be attending it with a member of the Main Street program. So I'm really excited. It's a 4-day conference. It's going to be really intensive, and I think I'm going to come back with a ton of cool new ideas and information about what everybody's doing across the state that's rocking it. Some of them are really ones that you'd be interested in, so I'll be sure to bring that information back for you. I think that is all my updates. Thank you.
Trustee Kim?
Thank you. We've had several meetings of the C3 committee, which is the Cleveland Construction Committee. That is going really well, a lot of interest. And if you've been shopping in town, you can see the QR codes that they have posted that talk about that you can scan and you can get information about the upcoming construction. This is a very vibrant group. We did some brainstorming, and then our last meeting, which I believe was on March the 6th, we kind of narrowed those broad ideas down and got a better focus of where this group should be sending its energy and information. Looking at things about transportation, what routes people will take, the type of vehicles that are making deliveries to downtown. Again, we're looking at parking, we're looking at everything media blitz to get the information out. This QR code was one of the ideas, and it's already in the restaurants in town. So this group will have another meeting, I think, within the next week and a half. It was moved because of spring break, but they're committed. They want to make an impact, and we're looking for ideas so we can minimize the impact to our businesses and keep these businesses open. So appreciate everyone who's there. Bob Gowan comes to this meeting. Patty's there. You know, we got a lot of great staff support and the business interest for the Main Street. Well represented there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wiegand?
I have no report, but I do want to acknowledge the St. Patty's Day Parade that we had here. What the community did and what the organizations did in this town was phenomenal. And I missed the parade. I didn't run, but I came in at the after effects. And it was kind of neat hearing comments from the people out there. I mean, there's quite a few from Fort Collins and a few of the other communities saying they wish they had something like that. So, I mean, it's really appreciated by the whole area up here. So give a thumbs up to the people that did it. Thank you.
Not much to report tonight. I've got Larimer County Opioid Abatement Council on Thursday, and I look forward to joining yourself as well as staff, Poudre School District, and LCSO for an SRO discussion on Thursday. So thank you.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thursday's meeting. Perfect. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item F1?
For the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators pursuant to 24-6-402 4E CRS, and for the purpose of receiving legal advice pursuant to 24-6-402 4B CRS regarding matters with the North Poudre Irrigation Company as required by CRS 24-6-402 2D.5, 2A, and 2E. The executive session proceedings will be electronically recorded and the record will be preserved for 90 days through June 23rd, 2025.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we exit regular session, move into executive session.
A second?
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, make a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Daly?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Trustee Teets?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Shosse?
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. I'll now close the regular meeting, Board of Trustees, time being 9:52, or we're just gonna enter it. Perfect. So we now enter executive session, time being 7:53 PM. All members of the public, please be aware the video will end and please exit the building.